Hiya, and welcome back to Far Beyond the World. The game that teaches us that the best option for your mental health is to just not talk about the big elephant in the room. And also that the best way to deal with I'll save that for later. Let me say real quick, thank you to, I do not know how to pronounce his name. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Hang on, I'm going to share my screen real quick. Said I don't know how to pronounce your name, but you pointed it out to me. Thank you. Thank you. Now we have a definitive method for, we have definitive pronunciation for Kalen. So anyways, let's just hop right in. We step outside into the pleasantly tepid evening, and I jump merrily over the uneven step as the wolf closes the door behind us. I see you've caught on. He smiles with satisfaction at my antics. Hiya! Did you trip over it? Not since the first time we went out. I reply with pride. I've seen Trista stumble, though. It was pretty amusing. I was thinking about replacing that lower step. He admits, as he's carefully bypassing it. No, leave it. I shake my head merrily. It gives your house character. You just enjoy watching people trip on it, don't you? Maybe. I shrug teasingly while the wolf takes a knee near one of the bushes. When he gets back up, I'm presented with a freshly picked dandelion. Here you go, Moondrop. He winks and I can hardly contain a blush as I struggle to place it securely in my pin. We walk towards the town at a leisurely pace, simply enjoying each other's company. Seeing how the village is pretty much empty, I take this opportunity to strike another conversation. So, Cora. I whisper in taunting fashion, and he straightens up in surprise at my choice of topic. What about her? She seems nice. I wink and he immediately blushes. Okay, whatever you heard, it's not like that. Relax, I'm just teasing. I laugh, interrupting him before he can start some awkward explanation. I figured it out. You did? Wait, what exactly is it that you figured out? The wolf sounds quite apprehensive, and I chuckle seeing his ears lower in deference. Hiya. Only that the two of you play pretend to get some peace of mind. Or did I get it all wrong? I let the question hang playfully, and he blinks in astonishment. Huh, you actually did. Are you saying you thought I'd be dumber? No, he protests almost as if he thought he really offended me. I'm just impressed. Again, just teasing. I laugh, shaking my head. It's uncharacteristically easy to ruffle his feathers tonight. Then again, I suppose he just doesn't want me to get the wrong idea. It must be hard being the most eligible bachelor and her being the most desirable maiden. It's more complicated than that. He mutters uncomfortably, looking to the side. True, it does keep others at bay, but it mostly keeps our fathers from pushing us into each other's arms. They got quite heavy-pawed with it once Cora flowered. Oh, it's awkward enough when everyone wants to bed you, but when your own father tries to push you into bed with another? Yeah, that is kind of fucked up. I admit uneasily, I can't even imagine how miserable I'd feel in his proverbial shoes. Once we started pretending we were a thing, they eased up a bit, most likely thinking they've accomplished their goal. Rannoch scoffs in annoyance, and I lean in, trying to catch a glimpse of his saddened eyes. So, you don't like her? I love her, but more like a sister. He exhales through a soft smile. When it comes to anything beyond that, I couldn't. I mean, I could. I definitely could. The wolf chuckles nervously, obviously hinting at her good looks. But I don't want to. He notices my intense gaze and gets redder and redder with each word. It's clear he is uncomfortable with the idea of them getting intimate. Cora's a dear friend, that's all. I want her to be happy, and that happiness does not lie with me. What makes you so sure? His green eyes center on me, and the wolf gives me a kind, encouraging smile, almost as if he thought I was getting defensive. Perhaps I was. I'm not sure myself. We knew each other since we were pups. If Cora and I were to fall in love, we would have done so already. You said that the feelings don't matter when it comes to sex. You described it very well. To the tribe they don't, but Cora is not my intended, and thus I won't be messing needlessly with her feelings. It's the last thing she needs. He mutters confidently, drawing a reluctant smile from me. You're always so mindful of those around you. I guess. Rannoch shrugs. I definitely am with Cora. I feel sorry for her more than anything. Why? Because of her father. She really doesn't have that much going on for her. What? I blurt out through a chuckle. She's one of the most stunning she-wolves I've ever seen. No arguments there. He scoffs in amusement. But looks aren't everything, not in the tribe. The wolf shakes his head with a worried expression. Vither is just an advisor. His position isn't something he can pass on. True, but he has the bakery and lots of money from what I've gathered. Yes, and all that goes to Dreher. He is Vither's primary heir. My confidence wavers and I frown. Wait, so Cora's left with nothing? Pretty much. The wolf shrugs again. She has to make a name for herself, and secure a match that will provide a future for her. Hello. How's that fair? Hiya. Our tribe is rarely concerned with fairness. The first pup gets everything, the rest are just spares in the eyes of our fathers. That's horrible. I know. He agrees through a shallow nod. That's why I don't intend to sow my seed left, right, and center. I'm no Vither. If I'll have a pup, I want it to have a future. I've been doing everything I can to help Cora entice other males. Dating a future chief makes one quite desirable. I finish for him. Exactly. I love that you're such a kind wolf. I bumped merrily into his shoulder, trying to cheer him up as the conversation took a rather heavy dip. It's not like I'm getting anything in return. She's pretty good at keeping other females at bay. Before we started this charade, it was getting quite frustrating at the feast, different females draping themselves over me. Oh, the horror. I tease, mimicking the expression from The Scream by Munch. His lips flicker slightly, their edges curving up in a subtle smile. I mean, I do like females, but I'm not into harlots. I'm a hunter. He states with pride, giving me one of his challenging looks. I like prey that's hard to get. Oh yes, I muse playfully. I put up quite a fight swooning over you, didn't I? I do not give up on my quest to cheer him up, and finally he lets out a chuckle. Swooning and being desperate are two different things. Besides, I like your swooning. The wolf murmurs, leaning into my ear and taking a surprised nibble at the lobe, sending a shiver shooting down my entire body. There, you did it again. Swoon for me, Moondrop. My heart speeds up and I stop in my tracks while the wolf continues on, paying me no mind. And I stand there struggling to contain my embarrassment. I see his tail taking wide, satisfied swings from side to side. I smile, touching my ear where his fangs nibbled at, and take a moment to savor the first time he actually made a conscious move. It felt nice and sensual, and I can't believe I'm getting worked up by it. Oh my god. I take a deep breath to cleanse myself of all this pent-up energy and rush to catch up, matching his now brisker pace. Once we arrive at the clearing, I immediately focus on the bonfire. The scent of burnt wood accompanied by soothing crackling became such a permanent fixture of my life here. I stare with joy at the flames twist and flicker, constantly shifting form. This place always invokes such a homely feeling inside of me. Despite the grounds being quite lovely, I can see that the central table remains mostly empty. There's only Vol, Tano, and what appears at first glance to be a bulky male almost as big as Vol himself. When the male walks up to chat with the black wolf, to my surprise, he turns out to be a she, and she's pretty well endowed. Once we arrive at the table, we're immediately intercepted by her, and I assume that's Regara. She looks tough. To say she's imposing would be an understatement. I'm sorry, who is this and why do I have a sudden urge to squeeze him into my bosom? Not gonna lie, looks like quite a comfy proposition. Who am I kidding? I know who that fucker is. You wouldn't shut up about him. The she-wolf laughs and then looks at me with amusement. Let me see. Yeah. Yep, very much so. She grabs my face in that now familiar farmer inspecting his livestock fashion. He's quite cute, in a feeble, fragile sort of way. The female snickers, but her attention immediately drifts towards my collar, and she pokes at it with her claw. Undine? Oh god. Oh god, she does kind of look like Undine. Let me pull up a picture. Bro, fucking autocorrect. Okay, Undine. Okay, I think we're going to go with the fan art. Oh god. Oh god. Yeah, we don't kink shame around these parts. Okay, got a picture. Let me just hang on. Try and position it. Let me find the software. So fuck. Hang on. Can I like move this? Okay. So like, there we go. Okay. We got the confident smirk. The batshit insane attitude. Better picture, ignore the vor. Why is there so much vor? I don't kink shame around these parts, but oh my god. I don't think it was syrup. I think it was poison. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, that's enough of that. Oh my god. That killed me. That freaking killed me. I'm dead now. I'm dead now. That killed me. That killed me, and I'm dead now. Ah, but what's this? What a shameful display. Shoddy craftsmanship. My father's eyes are not what they used to be. Were you really in such a hurry that you couldn't wait for my return? She looks to Rannoch, and the male shrugs awkwardly at the question. I mean, it's good enough. Good enough? Regara scoffs. This is your emblem we're talking about, not fucking hinges. I'll get a new one made straight away. Rannoch's clearly troubled by that suggestion, and his worried gaze ventures to me. I bring my hand discreetly towards my collar in a protective manner to make him aware I don't want a thing changed. No need, really. He insists on my behalf. This one's perfectly fine. You sure? She seems a bit confused, giving me and the collar another look. Well, damn shame. Would have loved to work on something intricate like that. But I guess you're right. I mean, he's just a ward after all. The female erupts in a burst of bombastic laughter quite similar to Vither's. Anyway, what must a battle-hardened alpha do to get some lubrication around here? She casts her eyes over to the table, causing Volt to get up with a clay bottle in one paw and a spare cup in the other. Okay, quick thought. I feel like vulgar is like, I don't take disrespect from no one, and Or I'm not no one's housewife, and she's like, make me a sandwich. And he immediately is the bitch in the relationship. He pops the cork with his teeth, pouring clear moonshine right into the goblet and passing it to her. Ah, cheers, handsome. Regara clinks the cup against the neck of the bottle. I needed something stronger than that weak piss. She downs the contents in one go and sticks the goblet right back under Vol's nose. Woo! Now that got some fire back into my veins. Give us another one, you beautiful beast, you. She laughs as the black wolf refills her cup with an amused expression. Once she empties it again, she walks to the table and clangs the goblet against it. Move, Snowball. The female nudges Tano, effectively pushing the smaller wolf out of the way. This is my seat. He protests in annoyance, but she only snorts at him. Not tonight, it isn't. I have important stuff to discuss with the chief, so move or I'll eject you myself. Clearly seething with anger, he's imminent to cause a fight, but to my surprise, Tano closes his eyes, sighs, and scooches over to the side, allowing her to seat herself comfortably. Come here. I blink as the world switches in a forward direction as I'm effectively pulled into her lap. I like her. She has that tough mom energy. Where, like, I feel like she'd be like, you know, the mama bear architecture, the mama bear personality. I feel like she'd have that, and, like, I don't know. I feel like if you say something about her kids, she'll beat the shit out of you and then spit on your corpse. I blink as... yeah, I already got that. She's holding me like one would hold a lapdog. Cute little fucker, isn't he? I can understand why you're so hellbent on him. The female calls to Rannoch and he blushes awkwardly as he takes his seat. Mama wants to smush this baby as well. Yes, she does. He's a bit scrawny, though. You need to feed it better. Aluna forbid you touch it too heavily, lest it falls apart. Don't worry, he's sturdier than he leads on. Vol pipes up between sips of the Everclear, drawing to his dismay her now more flirty attention. Hey there, looker. I'm Mr. Grumpy Muzzle. She sends him a wink, making the male increasingly uncomfortable. I don't think I've ever seen him flustered like this. He's almost blushing. Well, why don't you trade places with the tiny scrub? There's plenty of room. Regara pats her lap where I'm currently residing and I nearly explode with laughter. I'd pay to see that. We could have a drink together. He stutters and clears his throat nervously. I'm fine. Piglet can be your drinking companion. Piglet, eh? She looks at me with a toothy grin, pinching at my cheek. Now that's a fitting name for a ward if I've ever heard one. But I doubt he could hold the pace. How much can a little tick like him drink? You'd be surprised. Ticks drink quite a lot if given the chance. The female gives me a curious glance and smiles. Well, I'll gladly witness that. Before the banter can continue, I notice the chief and Vithar approaching from behind one of the screens. I guess they took another walk to smoke their leaf. I wonder if it's some form of weed or just regular tobacco. Finally, we've been waiting for you to grace us with your presence. The old male grumbles, looking at Rannoch with displeasure. I had to go home and check in on Kaelin. Who's Kaelin? The chief blinks, only to quickly center on me. Ah, the human. He's been doing fine, surprisingly very little trouble. Speak for yourself. Vithar grumbles in clear displeasure, giving me a less kind look. I guess he didn't take Korra's misadventure well. Oh shit. Get that thing off your lap, you're making a spectacle of yourself. The chief waves his paw at me dismissively. Regara frowns at the comment and gives me a confused look. Instead of saying anything, she simply shrugs and helps me off, allowing me to take a seat in the narrow gap between her and Vol. I guess this is yet another time where I won't be sitting beside Rannoch and his expression sours. I'm about to get up and stick by his side, but that's when the chief's voice echoes loudly. Is everyone settled? Seems so. Fuck. The male looks around the table, causing me to abandon my plan to switch places, and I do the same. Varissa's still missing, and Korra's nowhere to be seen, but besides that, the table seems to have the same setup as before. Come to think of it, I can't see Trist either. Good. Oh my god, I actually need to watch The Golden Girls. I've been meaning to start watching it, but I kept forgetting. And you just reminded me, like, I need to, like, sit down and watch it. I don't think Versa will be joining us anytime soon. Those two didn't look too good. They'll live. Fren and Anea. How do you pronounce that? How do you pronounce that? Like, Fren is kind of obvious, but... Enya. They'll live. Fren and Enya are strong, and they're in good paws now. Oh, you don't even know the half of it. I hear Tano's taunting words and my stomach churns. Versa's skills as a healer grew incredibly over the past 2 weeks. Why, this here human was at the cusp of death when they brought him in, and look at him now. Will you give this damned nonsense a rest already? The chief bangs his fist against the table, causing me to jump. As if we didn't have more important things to worry about. Why should he give it a rest? He makes a valid point. The human is still our primary concern. And with Aldris's contemptuous tone joining the fray, all my innards are tied in knots. I thought you decided not to attend the feast while he's here. I've decided to make an exception. Of course she fucking had. Did I miss something? Why is the human a hot potato? The large female asks in a hushed tone, causing Vol to lean in. Just ignore it, or they'll have another fight over him. This girl will ravel us with her inflated battle stories while we have an intruder in our midst. Regara chokes on her drinks and clings the cup angrily against the table, turning to face Aldris with a rather annoyed look. I'm sorry if my patrol being ambushed by raiders is an attention hog. I'll gladly listen to the imminent threat this little tweak poses. She points to me, causing the pudgy female to scoff. Your failings are your own, little girl. Rannoch's transgressions are far more pressing than... failings? Regara stands up, towering over the gathered, and Aldris shifts slightly. I would invite you to repeat that, so that we could have a different conversation, followed by a funeral. Are you threatening an elder at the feasting ground? I'm reminding a member of our tribe that if they question honor and position of another wolf, the insulted party can demand satisfaction, as is our custom. Perhaps you should have stuck to your boycott, and leave this clearly uninteresting matter to us. The chief quips mockingly, only aggravating the hag further. I will not be kept away from this debriefing by your machinations. We should have convened at the villa. Why? The chief shrugs. That's my private home. The tribe's meeting place is here, and anything Regara has to say concerns the tribe. You deciding not to attend the feast because of the human is your problem, not mine. I'm here then, aren't I? I'll join you. I'll fucking join you. The pudgy female scoffs, to which Vithar flushes his brows. Unfortunately. Very well then, I'll have them set up at the elders' table. With a single paw wave, the chief gestures towards the bunnies, who nod in affirmation, but before they take a single step, the annoying screeching continues. No, I won't be sitting far away from earshot. Well, I'm afraid there's simply no space here. He states plainly as Regara takes her spot again. I see 2 empty seats. This one's Verissa's, should she join us between her duties at the Den of Vigil. As for Delron's spot, it is bad luck to take a seat of the missing alpha. Vithar responds nonchalantly, but it's hard not to notice the slight satisfaction he draws from refusing her spot. Not sure if it's bullshit or real custom, but I'm glad she's not sitting with us. Then the human can do what he's meant to do and serve. He's a guest at our table, not a servant. A guest? Aldris shrieks in an unnatural tone, causing Regara to turn to her with an irritated sneer. Speaking truthfully, I don't think you'd fit between us anyway.
My nigga, you just got roasted. Yeah.
Actually, that was awful. Where is it? I'm looking for this Filthy Frank thing. Or, getting... Damn it, I can't find it. I can't find it. The female makes a clear jab at Aldris's voluptuous figure, and I chuckled discreetly. I'm in no mood to huddle at my own table after nearly 3 weeks in the field. Quite right. The chief nods in agreement, but the entitled female only crosses her arms in defiance. I'll stand then. Do as you please, as long as you do it in silence. He shrugs indifferently, clearly losing interest in verbal spars with that vile woman. Seeing that their leader began piling up his plate, the other wolves help themselves to whatever they please. Considering my previous waiter is separated from me by an overgrown and well-endowed wall of a she-wolf, I decide to help myself as well. I reach for some roasted veg and what I assume are chickens, or pheasants, or whatever, when to my surprise, Regara beats me to it. She holds up the plate above my own, nodding towards the knife and fork, clearly expecting me to grab whatever I please. I nod in gratitude and take some root vegetables along with a nice piece of grilled breast. Where's your gallant champion? Vithar asks out loud, looking mockingly at Aldris, while flicking his fingers after stacking his plate high with various meats. I honestly can't remember the last time I saw you on your own. He's fetching an L. Oh, I love an L. The female huffs, still standing challengingly in front of our table. Ah, I see you intend to put on a spectacle again. I intend to ensure proper governance in the face of these mounting crises. And speaking of spectacles and mounting crises, the brown male snorts and bops his glass in a direction where he just spotted Drawn. He leads an L, pulling her by the rim of her shawl as if she were a dog. The frail female barely able to keep up with his pace. That's it. Let's go. Let's go. You're hurting an L. Let's go. Let's go. Let's take this outside. What a massive asshole. I'm sorry it took so long. She kept stopping every few paces. The male barely wheezes out as almost as if he was about to pass out. He needs to. And Nell, on the other hand, corrects her dress, not a bead of sweat on her body. Not that would justify his disgusting treatment anyway. My, the weather is quite lovely tonight, isn't it? Yes, you said it at least 10 times already. Drawn snarls at her in annoyance, while the female takes an idle look across the surrounding tables. Tell me, why are we here again? We've come to the feast because Regara... Oh, how extraordinary! And now claps her hands, interrupting Aldris to her utter exasperation. You must have read my mind, Dwan. It's Drawn. He sneers through clenched teeth, but the venerable female just ignores him. You know, I think I forgot to eat lunch today. I am quite peckish. Had not for my neck, I would lose my head. She chuckles softly and then focuses on the chief, genuflecting as deeply as she can, considering her age. Despite taking a shallow dip, she still did so with much more grace and respect than the other two elders could ever muster. My chief. Enel. The chief returns the gesture with a nod of acknowledgement, and the older female looks back to her friends. Shall we go to our table then? If memory serves me well, it was, we're not going to the damn table. We'll be standing. Standing? Whatever for? Enel blinks, but Aldris waves at her with a paw. Wait, who are we missing? Never you mind. She snaps, looking at the chief with growing anger, but all I can think of is that poor ancient female dragged through the town by that heavy-pawed brute. Well, that's a shame. My knees are not what they used to be, and Mother always said it's bad form eating upright. No, I cannot take this anymore. I simply stand up and walk towards the female, gently slipping my hand underneath her arm to everyone's surprise. Aww. We need Cora. Ooh, hello there, dearie. What is he doing? Why is he touching her? Aldris nearly rushes me, but Enel stops her with a risen paw. We need them. It's quite alright, no harm done, I remember him. He's that cheeky little devil from the villa. I wonder what mischief is he up to now. She smiles, patting my hand. I smile back and nod towards the table, leading her to my spot and helping her to take a seat. I could hear Aldris's heavy breathing as she gets more and more infuriated, reminiscent of an old steam locomotive. Now that I think about it, a proper zoological term for a female canine would be a bitch. shooketh. He is absolutely shooketh. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Which I guess means one would be perfectly justified in calling Aldris an old fat bitch. Ah, Moon, bless you, child, you needn't have. Actually, I have. I wouldn't be able to sit here watching you stand. Besides, it allows me to do what I wanted to do in the first place. As I'm about to leave, taking a long U-turn around the table, I hear Aldris's heavy breathing erupt into another shouting spree. So she can sit, but not us? What can I do? Not my fault the ape doesn't understand us. Yeah, fuck you, bitch. I'm a dumb ape. Besides, size-wise, it's not much of a difference anyway. Regara shrugs and I struggle to contain another satisfied smirk at her jabs. But now the hag is growling outright, showing her teeth on full display, and I can't help myself. I might not be here to serve tonight, but to piss her off, I'll do one better. I grab a spare goblet and fill it up with wine, bringing it back to Anel, who takes it with both surprise and gratitude. Hold up. He's smiling. Why, thank you. It's just what I needed. Feels like I've been in a forced march. Yeah, I saw. Vither's just completely done. He's shooketh. I walk back around the table with a satisfied smirk and take my rightful spot beside Rannoch, who showers me with proud gazes. Seeing she's making a spectacle of herself, the pudgy female shakes her head and paws, almost as if dismissing the whole thing. Right, let's get this started. Where's the rush? The chief asks in a slightly mocking tone. They've just returned. Let them at the very least get some refreshments first. Ugh, very well. Aldris grumbles in annoyance and crosses her arms while everyone returns to simply enjoying their meals. Rannoch takes the opportunity to pour me a glass of wine, giving me a tender smile. Since I left my previous plate on the other side, he motions to the array of meals in front of us, and I simply nod towards some roasted potatoes and ham. The wolf sets up a generous portion, drowning it all in a handsome amount of gravy, and I cannot help but lick my lips in anticipation. As he sets the plate in front of me, the chief leans in, looking at us in confusion. Why are you serving him? Regara said he looks too scrawny. Rannoch shrugs and I nearly choke on my wine. That he does. The female nods, raising her cup towards mine, and I do the same. He's been eating little ever since I found him. If I won't set him a portion, I'm afraid he'll starve himself to death. Peculiar. The male sounds intrigued, but quickly dismisses it and turns to his friend. Is that new? Anel pokes the overgrown female on the arm, pointing to a clearly visible fresh wound. I'm sure it wasn't there the last time we saw each other. Yup, a memento of my very first battle. Regara pumps up her chest, responding with pride in her voice. Ah, you'll learn to cherish it. The elder female nods, grabbing the rim of her shawl and dress, pulling them down over her arm to reveal the upper chest. Here's my very own, an arrow wedged itself right here into my shoulder blade. She points to a faded spot just beneath her collarbone. I'm no surgeon, but that one seems too close to heart for comfort, but Anel seems happy with it. I'd show you my last one, but... She frowns teasingly, leaning in and whispering in the hushed tone. I'm afraid the setting isn't quite appropriate for such a thing. Our side of the table erupts in laughter, even Vol lets out an amused chuckle. You're a damned legend, Anel. I wish I had half of your tales to tell by the time my fur turns gray. I'll drink to that. The black male raises his cups, and we all make a toast in honor of the female. My, she must have been quite a character in her youth. Once we all take a sip, she smiles at us with slight pity. I wouldn't wish my life upon any of you, but I fear you will all get your fair share of misadventure soon enough. Her voice is quite somber and puts a damper on the jovial atmosphere. The wolves exchange confused glances, but the older female has already moved on. She turns back to her standing friends and speaks up. Val, dearie, why don't you take a seat? This must be murder on your ankles. Oh my god. I'm Aldris. The pudgy female growls in annoyance, and I can hardly contain a snicker at those misnaming antics. Oh, indeed, forgive me. Enel shakes her head absentmindedly and looks to the chief. Should we get the wards to fetch them some stools at least? The male nods to the suggestion and signals Trist, who's scrambling between the far-off tables. I'm glad to finally see him as he rushes behind the screen. I try to give him an encouraging smile, but I think he's too busy to notice. He eventually returns with Leaf at his side, both bringing a small stool each for the old wolves to sit on. They're not exactly quite right, though, almost as if they were meant for pups, and considering the pavilion is built on a platform, the seated elders look now comically low in comparison. I need to see this. I need to see this. Aldris and Drawn feel like kids sent to the principal's office, and the humor isn't lost on the chief, who immediately erupts in laughter. You almost look like you were put on trial. You sure you wouldn't be more comfortable at your own table? You would love that, wouldn't you? The pudgy female sneers, rubbing her butt all over the stool to get more comfortable. Ew. Not really. You two are completely indifferent to me. If I'm to be honest, I just think you make yourselves look like fools. You always thought yourself witty, but you show for everyone to see the insult you inflict upon us. She replies in a risen voice, as to draw the attention of the nearby wolves, then pointing towards Enel. Why is it that she gets to sit at the table while we're treated? Again, I did not offer her a seat. Your quarrel is with the human, not me. The chief shrugs while the tiny female looks around with worry and attempts to get up. I'm happy to give it up if it is any trouble. No, love. You stay where you are. Regara puts upon her shoulder, pushing Enel back into her seat. This is the Alpha's table. Vither joins in with an indifferent tone. Technically speaking, Enel was an Alpha, unlike the two of you. 23 years and 89 days. Oh. Okay, well, have a good night. The best time of my life. She nods with a smile, proudly recounting her tenure with said title. But while we may admire her accomplishments, the other two seem to take issue. Of course you've always valued brute force over reason. Are they ever going to shut up? Regara whispers towards Vol, who only snorts in amusement, looking at Elle with a risen brow. I don't understand how you've managed all those years. It's getting quite loud here, isn't it? She muses, again, falling into her senile wolf act. I've been in 2 sieges in my lifetime. The female shrugs, pushing a glass towards the center of the table, clearly asking someone to refill her cup. Since this time she's away from my reach, it falls to Vol to do the honors. The siege weapons could do your head in. The endless rustle of chains and clanking of wood, followed by the thundering impact of the stone against the ramparts. We listen to her carefully as Vol fills her cup, and the other 2 elders continue their quibble with the chief. But eventually it all blends into a buzz at the back of your mind. If you can survive that, any ruckus becomes just a backdrop. Did she just call them a background noise? Did she just call them a background noise? Come to think of it, when you have better things to do, they do fade into the surroundings perfectly. Almost like the crackling of the flames. Once you're used to it being there, it's barely noticeable. Are we going to start this hearing eventually, or is your intention to delay this until the morning? On the contrary, I don't want to hold you here a minute longer than necessary. Just wanted them to have a moment's reprise. He looks towards both Rannoch and Regara. You two feel refreshed? Both wolves nod, and the chief waves his paw towards the towering female. In your own time, then, recount what transpired out there. Regara bows respectfully and stands up. She clears her throat and nods towards Vol to refill her glass. Once the black wolf obliged, she hastily empties the goblet and gestures for another round. This time, she keeps the filled cup in her paw, most likely to wet her lips as her story continues. When she's about to open her muzzle, dead silence falls over the grounds, and every wolf leans in to better hear. At first, it seemed like nothing. Disturbed forest floor and broken foliage, I assumed that it were perhaps poachers encroaching on our territory. Nothing major. I mean, it happened before. The female shrugs, and the gathered nod in agreement. We followed the tracks for a bit, only to find that the party was much larger than initially anticipated. Maybe 10 or 15 individual sets of tracks. If this was the case, why didn't you retreat to one of the outer packs? Drawn interrupts her, and the female looks at him with surprise. Because there was 14 of us there. I knew Delron was nearby. If there were intruders, I would rather not leave them uncontested. So you regrouped then? The chief guesses, but the female shakes her head. No, before we even had a chance to change course, I saw a massive black cloud rise above the treetops. She points towards the forest surrounding the grounds, and many look in that direction. It was the thickest smoke I've ever seen, a column of ash and soot 300 feet tall. Hearing this, the gathered began murmuring between each other, clearly unsettled by the revelation. I knew that wherever Delron was, he would have seen it too, so we set our course hoping the other pack would converge on us there. Good call. Vithar nods in approval while Regara takes a deep gulp of wine. Her eyes venture to the earth beneath her paws, and her jaw shivers a little as she struggles to recount the tale. I wasn't prepared to see what happened there. The intruders put an entire Lapin burrow to torch and sword. They took the young ones and butchered everyone else, including the livestock, while setting fire to everything around. This caused an outrage among the gathered, with many howling and screaming in anger, while the chief and Vithar exchanged troubled gazes. I find my worried eyes venture to Rannoch, and the wolf tries to give me an encouraging smile, but I can see it's just a front. You are all right to be outraged, so are we. She downs the last contents of her cup and brings it back to Vol, who refills it without delay. We were outraged. We wanted vengeance. We wanted to pursue and catch whoever committed this atrocity. But if the fires were left unchecked, they would have spread. The bastards who started them did so on purpose, knowing full well we'd be tied down trying to stop the inferno. Burrow? Which, please? I noticed Tritch approach the table, toying nervously with his fingers, and I could see he's struggling to contain tears. My heart goes out to him, and I keep repeating to myself, please don't let it be his home. I don't know how to say that.
Self-voicing enabled. Regara, Tainan Krob. Self-voicing disabled.
Regara responds with a wavering voice, and an audible sigh of relief escapes the brown rabbit's lips. Don't worry, Trist. Your family is safe. All your families are safe. She addresses the remaining bunnies, only to continue with a hushed, sorrowful voice. Can't say the same for those poor sods. As she takes a shallow sip of wine, I close my eyes, giving thanks to whichever god has answered my prayer. Still, no one deserves such a fate, and despite the somewhat good news, most of the attendants are still understandably upset. Just as Trist told me a few days back, his people are always the ones who get hit by anything those wolves do. Who gives a rat's ass about the damned rabbits?
Drain, shut your fucking mouth, or I will shut it for you.
Drawn spits out with annoyance. Tell us what happened to my son. Wait, his son? Delron arrived within a few hours of us. He was equally shaken by the devastation and rushed to our aid. Despite our joint efforts, it was clear that the fires wouldn't be taken out for a long while, given the perpetrators enough time to escape with our people in chains. Again, the female is forced to take another sip. I can't believe she was able to maintain such good humor at the table, despite carrying such horror within. A village of wolves in masks. It's clear, though, that recounting the tale makes hers crack, almost as if she was reliving it anew. This wouldn't stand. Not with us. Delron and I knew that one of us would have to stay and stop the fires, but neither was willing to forego the privilege of bringing the bandits to justice, so we gambled for it. She shrugs casually, causing some to chuckle. Delron, lucky git he is, won and his pack immediately left. And you just let him? Drawn sounds completely outraged, but the female doesn't budge. Believe me, it gave me no joy playing the forest ranger while he went off to battle, but our duty is both to the people and the land was bleeding. Unless we wanted a carbon makeover of our northern reaches, there was no other choice. Regara states sternly, and despite Drawn's intense protests, most of the gathered seemed to agree with the female. As we continued our struggle to contain the flames, we found one survivor amongst the wreckage. It was a deerkin, a young druid, badly wounded. We managed to patch him up. As thanks, he offered us his services in bringing the criminals to justice. He claimed he could commune with the force and keep an eye on the other pack. She pokes her head playfully, rolling her eyes as some of the wolves snicker. I know. At first I was skeptical as anyone would. I'd never seen any real magic in action, so I ignored him. I wish I was wiser. He knew those woods better than anyone could, found paths otherwise unseen by any rangers. So I began to listen, cautiously, but still. The female pauses, allowing the gathered to settle down. The following day, the trees told him that Delron reached his quarry, released the slaves, and killed the poachers. A fanciful tale, I thought, but one detail caught me off guard. The druid claimed that there were only 4 enemies killed, and that the forest warned of others at large. I already knew there was at least 14, so it became clear it was a trap and that the druid wasn't making it up. Sylvan magic, rubbish to all of that. Aldris scoffs in amusement, waving to one of the attendants to bring her wine. My son would never kill another wolf, Drawn added, waving as well and wanting to be served in turn. I notice that this comment makes Rannoch's lips curl up in a subdued snarl. You weren't there. The female responds raspily through a taunting growl. You haven't seen what we've seen, what those wolves have done. It was perverse, going against everything our people stand for. The way I see it, they weren't wolves at all, but rabid beasts needed to be put down. How can you say such a thing about our kin? Aldris shifts uncomfortably, contempt for Regara's words clear in her voice. Because they were intent on carrying out those atrocities across the entire border unless stopped. And how'd you know that? Drawn challenges her, retrieving his goblet from Trist. The trees spoke to the deer. They told him. The trees again? Aldris sneers with annoyance. The trees don't speak, gullible girl. The deer took you for a fool you were. Again? Regara blinks, snarling and releasing an exasperated sigh. You weren't there. He knew things you could not have possibly known. Like what? He knew of Rannoch's coming of age, for one. Everyone invested in the tribe's politics would have known of Rannoch's coming of age. The pudgy female raises her hands and slaps them against her knees. He's one step away from being a damned prince the way Varrock treats him. He knew of the human as well. Regara adds, causing the others to whisper between themselves in confusion. In fact, with this one revelation, she seized the attention of all the gathered. He said the trees spoke of him incessantly, almost as if his sudden arrival has shaken the entire forest to its core. Why would the forest be speaking of this human? That I do not know. The female says in a defeated tone, taking another sip from her cup. But if you need more proof, his constant warnings about incoming attacks were flawless. He predicted all enemy movements, and thanks to that, we were able to counter any ambushes. Ambushes? As I said, Delron only caught 4 intruders, which meant that at least 10 of them were still at large. We repelled the first attack with these, but it soon got clear that we were being tested. Tested? The chief finally pitches in. He was awfully quiet throughout the entire exchange, most likely taking in everything Regara was saying. Whatever they were doing, they did not try to kill us outright. At first, it almost seemed like a rather intense training regime. They checked our alertness, our combat skill, and then disengaged. Do you think they were trying to get the measure of you? Vithar raises his brow. His face is oddly stoic, almost emotionless. That would be my guess, yes. Why did you allow that, then? Drawn chastises her in annoyance. Why didn't you pursue them once they ended their games? I won't be taking combat advice from a wolf who never wielded a weapon in his life. Regara draws a collective gasp from the gathered while Vithar goes as far to chuckle. That's exactly what they were counting on. We were outnumbered and surrounded, strong only as a unit. The moment we dispersed, they'd pick us off one by one. Well said. Again, Vithar agrees with her assessment, raising his cup in admiration, and the female thanks him with a gentle head bow. I had a good teacher. She mutters, drawing a proud smile from the brown male's muzzle. I had to stay firm and stand together. Seeing their tactics didn't work, the enemy tried to wear us out by depriving us from sleep. This was no lost hunting party. Those were seasoned warriors trying to kill us slowly, one by one, like stalked prey. Very much seems like it. The chief nods, calmly reaching for a clay bottle, and once he pours himself a tall glass of moonshine, I begin to realize that this is quite serious. Worse yet, they were waiting for reinforcements. The druid told me that there was another party entering Turn from the north, at least a dozen. He gave me no reason to not believe his words, so our situation was getting desperate. What more proof do we need? The chief spreads his arms and bangs the table. It's an invasion. An invasion? You've lost your mind. You're taking this girl's word for it? Based on a story spun by an otherkin, nonetheless. The two elders continue their unbearable mockery. How can they do such a thing in the face of Regara's harrowing account? What am I thinking? Of course they can. They're massive. Not saying it. Sylvan folk are known for their deep connection in nature. It's where our own traditions take source, the name trees to name a few. Don't be absurd. Do you honestly believe a deer spoke with trees? She sneers, but this time it's Vither who bangs the table in anger. I look to the male who bares his fangs freely, entire fur standing up in barely contained rage. I speak with my soulmate's tree every night, and thanks to you, am I being absurd, woman? Oh, I dozed off again. Annelle stirs from one of her stupors and blinks in the dim light of the candles. Considering the timing of those so far, I'm more and more convinced she does it on purpose. My, it has gotten incredibly chilly. She mutters, shivering, and I pull at Rannoch's cape. The wolf looks at me confused and a nod towards Annelle. Realizing what I mean to do, he smiles at me approvingly and unpins the cloak from his pauldron. Once it's free, I fold it onto my arm and walk around the table, with everyone looking at me with slight surprise as I drape the cloak around the elder's shoulder. My word, you're reading my mind, you lovable beastie. She smiles, pulling the cloak tighter around her shoulders while I pour her another glass of wine. Considering she might be actually cold, I also nod towards the moonshine bottle, and she smiles at me knowingly. Go on, why not? She snickers teasingly, and I uncork the top, pouring a dash into her wine. Thank you ever so much. What a charming little fella. Perhaps you should be escorted back home, Annelle. Vither's anger has now completely melted away, and he looks to the female with genuine concern. No, it's quite all right now, thank you. She waves her paw at him. I haven't felt this taken care of in quite some time. I'm loath to let it end so soon. Everyone's so happy. The female turns to shake my arm in gratitude, and I smile, noticing Vither's approving nod. I realize what she's doing. Every time things begin to spiral, she diffuses the tension with masterful precision. As I return to my place, the chief looks towards Regara, who took this little spat as an opportunity to have her cup refilled. She's going through those at an alarming pace, but at the same time, can I blame her? What she described so far sounds like living hell. You were saying about the ambushes and the incoming enemy reinforcements? Yes. The large female nods, trying to muster the courage to say what need to be said. I was worried this would be our end, but thanks to the druid, we were able to counteract every move of the enemy. However, the time was running out. Infuriated that their ambushes kept failing, they eventually figured out that the deer was our eyes. One night they decided to attack us in full force in an open battle. She dips her lips in wine and takes a shallow huff of air. Again, I thought it was one of their tests, but this time they fought until they fell. It was a gambit. They sacrificed 2 of their own so that they could get to the deer and deliver him a deadly blow. That's when I got this. Regara points to a scar on her forearm. And that's when Fred and Enya got wounded. Our only consolation was that we managed to kill 2 of those sons of bitches. Once their task was accomplished, they scattered into the woods like cowards. So you admit you killed your fellow wolves. Drawn speaks in an accusatory tone as if seeking outrage from the gathered, but to his surprise, none shares his sentiment. Fellow? They tried to kill us! She did what any true wolf would do. She stood her ground and fought for her life. What happened next? Vither urges her on, clearly intrigued by the events. As he was dying, the druid managed to give me one final warning. He revealed that help was on its way. He said Rannoch left looking for us, and all I had to do was wait out 2 more nights. What? The chief utters in disbelief, almost sounding amazed by her words, while I looked to my wolf in confusion. We hunkered down, buried the deer as is custom for his kind, and waited. Waited to live, to fight, to die. Waited for Rannoch to finally arrive. It was getting gruesome. Although now fewer in numbers, they made up for in ferocity. They were out for blood. Can you blame them? You killed 2 of their own. At times, I do have to wonder whose side you're on. The male issues a subdued growl to which Aldris only scoffs. On the side of reason. Let her finish her account, for crying out loud. Vither bangs the table once more, and his patience is clearly wearing thin. Continue, please, and pay them no mind. By the dawn of the 3rd day, we were on our last legs. We would have all perished had Rannoch not arrived when he did, right amid their final assault. I can barely contain tears from creeping onto my eyes. Had we not argued? Had we not have our heart-to-heart? He might have not left. It's hard to understand that the lives of so many hinge on something seemingly so unrelated. Immediately I venture to verse his words about fate. But before I can allow my emotions to spiral, Regara casts her gaze in our direction. Her muzzle beams with pride as she looks to Rannoch with utter devotion. You should have seen him. He descended onto the enemy like the great wolf spirit himself. No hesitation, no fear. He cut down 2 of those fuckers with one fell swoop, inspiring the rest of us to bring out what fighting spirit was left in our body. It was glorious. We fought like we never fought in our lives. My breath becomes heavy and I continuously blink away the tears, trying not to look at Rannoch, as pretty much every eye was now fixated on him. I could see his father's proud expression as Regara delivers her testimony, and I share in his awe, but Rannoch's oddly uncomfortable. If not for him, I wouldn't be here. None of us would have returned. She raises her cup and everyone does the same, standing to their feet. Since it's not really a verbal cue, I am free to do the same and everyone cheers in one single voice. To Rannoch! It's clear the Grey Wolf does not know how to take this. He seems embarrassed by the unanimous display of admiration, but if what Regara says is true, he deserves it and so much more. In fact, he makes me feel quite embarrassed. I was only serving lunch and fetching ingredients while they were out there fighting for their lives. Pretty much my worst predictions came true. And I feel so sorry for him. Once the cheers die down a bit and everyone gets settled, Regara continues with her story. With Rannoch's help, we repelled the final assault and were ready to pursue the escaping few wolves we didn't cut down. That's when their leader finally revealed himself. He was oddly confident and smug, asking us for terms while waving a piece of paper in the air as if it were his shield. I would have none of it, she states with all the disgust she could muster. Rannoch wanted to hear him out, and I don't blame him. But he didn't see what those wolves did to the burrow. No, that bastard was my quarry. I would have my revenge for all the suffering he inflicted upon our land, so I challenged him to a duel instead. Despite him asking for terms, Drawn snarls in outrage, but again, he and Aldrich seem to be the only ones playing the devil's advocate. I cared not for his terms. He was dead meat to me. Regara spits onto the ground, and surprisingly, the vast majority of the gathered cheer for her. I said to him that if he defeats me, my blood debt dies with me, and he can parley with whomever he please. But if he wants to parley, it would be over my dead body. Many wolves rise to their feet and begin applauding, to the utter horror of the elders. The entire field fills with ovations that don't seem to die out, and eventually the chief is forced to get up and settle them down with a gentle waving of his paws. I'm impressed you decided to take him on, despite being exhausted after an entire week of fighting. Vithar mutters in approval as his friend takes back his seat. I was hoping he'd thought the same, and see me as an easy win. The fool accepted. Well, you were on your last legs. The chief smirks in amusement, and Regara shakes her head in jest. You have no idea, Chief, what glorious second wind burning hatred can be. Actually, I can, and I applaud your valor. The chief bows his head towards her, causing Drawn to stand up and growl. Glorifying mindless violence? Glorifying bravery, actually. I understand the distinction might be lost on cowards. Drawn's about to rush the table, but Aldrich pulls him back into his seat. What happened next? She demands. This time, she's the one oddly invested in the following events, rubbing her paws in clear frustration. Everyone's probably expecting some spectacular duel, but in truth, all I did was deflect his first swings and crack his skull open like a soft-boiled egg. Regara splays her paws pitifully in clear disappointment, but the account is much to the crowd's content, and the gathered cheer and laugh once more. As he fell to the ground, his brains splattered all over the forest floor. I was able to calm down enough to recognize him. He was my intended. The female shrugs with many muttering between each other in the far-off tables. I haven't seen that twerp in 10 years, but I would recognize him anywhere. He had a growth spurt, that's for sure, leading the pack as if he were born into it. I guess I became the end of his military and political career. She scoffs mockingly, reaching towards a pouch at her belt and removing from it a crumpled envelope. That's the paper he was waving. The female brings it over to the table and passes it to the chief. I watch intently as he hastily opens it, removing from it a rather nice-looking parchment with a wax seal at the very bottom. That's the gellet from the Golduran, signed by Vortigern himself. He exhales in surprise, passing it over to Vithar. To whom it may concern, the brown wolf reads out loud with amusement. The bearer of this letter is entitled. He nods in surprise. To all accommodation, protection, and assistance befitting his lord's siege, signed Vortigern, by the grace of Aluna, chief of Golduran, lord of the northern pass and protector of the sylvan folk. He recounts the titles with an exasperated sigh, while the gathered begin to chatter in quiet confusion. Quite a protector indeed. Why don't you style yourself like that, by the grace of Aluna and all that rubbish? Vither throws mockingly at his friend, to which he only snickers. It might be because I'm not an insecure prick. But think about it, you could be the chief of Turnin, lord of here and there and protector of the feasting table. The brown male continues his joke to the growing amusement of the gathered. And then again, it would make introductions a rather tedious affair. Are you two done playing jesters? Aldris finally interrupts this, standing up and approaching the table. That foolish girl just admitted to killing an envoy from another chief. Her intended nonetheless, and yet you sit here and mess around. She snatches the document from Vither's paws and begins to read it intently, while Regara shrugs. What else was I supposed to do? Kiss him and show him the way to the next burrow? The large female draws a fit of laughter from the gathered. The fucker attacked me. He thought he was good enough to take me down, and now his cracked skull decorates the northern border. I think we've accommodated him perfectly. Vither quips, and again, the gathered chuckle. Don't you think this could cause a reprisal? The pudgy female ignores Vither completely and waves the document in front of the chief's bemused muzzle. Oh, I would love for Vortigern to inquire about his missing diplomatic mission. In person, I bet. This is serious. I'm sorry, am I missing something here? Those were foreign wolves invading our land, desecrating our forest. Isn't that what our patrol duty is meant to prevent? Has our role changed from wardens to wards while I was away? Typical brutish mindset. Aldris shoves the paper back into the chief's paws, marching back to her seat. Fine, next time out in the field, I will take a picnic basket just in case we stumble against another foray. We shall serve them refreshments. Invading's a thirsty... We shall serve them refreshments. Invading's a thirsty job, after all. Another round of cheer fills the grounds to Aldris's dismay, while Drawn stands up, shaking his head in disbelief. No, 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 this makes no sense at all. No sense at all. Why would Vortigern send ruffians to attack our burrows and then arm them with letters of safe conduct? Perhaps he wants to send a message. Vither responds seriously, previous tone of mockery gone from his voice. To whom? To us, or to our subjects. The chief shrugs, crumpling the letter and tossing it aside. I don't know, and frankly, I don't care. This demands satisfaction. Satisfaction? You sound as bloodthirsty as that mad girl. She said herself that she killed an entire pack while we suffered no losses. We lost a whole burrow along with a druid ally. Regard corrects the angry female with a bitter tone. You know damn well that other kin don't count. I know no such thing. As an alpha, I swore on the moon herself to protect all denizens of Turnin. I notice a subtle smile appearing on Anel's otherwise peaceful muzzle, but quickly shudder in surprise as Rannoch stands up. Hear, hear. He raises his mug, causing quite a few others to do the same, and I smile at my wolf. Our kin should always come first. Be it as it may, we cannot allow a ruin of a burrow to be left unanswered. The chief leans uncomfortably, shaking his head in annoyance and forcing Rannoch to sit down again. You want to start a war with our northern brethren over some bunnies? You haven't been there. The smell of burnt flesh carries on the wind. The charred skeletons of centennial trees. This wasn't just a raid, this was evil, pure and simple. Yes, war's horrible, girl. What other great insights do you have to offer? Aldris snaps dismissively and looks to the chief. Things like this happen. They've always happened. The Sylvan folk are under our protection. What is that protection worth when others can undermine it with impunity? I think that first we need to try and resolve this diplomatically. Perhaps it's all just a misunderstanding. Drawn proposes nervously. It's clear you're starting to take it slightly more seriously than Aldris does. I think I understood it quite well that our lives were on the line, when for 5 nights straight we were hounded by the enemy. Perhaps Golderin had a harsh winter?
Fuck you! 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 Fuck you!
Yeah, like, I can understand that Drawn is a little pissed off here. Like, it's understandable. But, like, Aldris has no reason to be bitching right now. The pudgy female proposes in a desperate attempt to explain this away. I mean, 3 times in a row, our own supplies ran short. Maybe Vortigern seeks aid to replenish his granaries. I would hardly hold on par an armed robbery and murder with a neighbor asking to borrow some turnips. Vithar mocks her again, and once more, Aldris is exposed to ridicule from the gathered. Seeing this, Drawn feels compelled to rush to her defense, challenging the entire central table. You hot-bloods are all the same, clamoring for combat whenever you can. This dumb bitch might have just well started a war, yet you applaud her for it. I blink, as do many others, all of us looking intently at Regara, whose entire form tenses as she grips her hammer tightly. When you've truly been to battle, I've just been to battle, you pathetic den warmer. She snarls viciously, causing the old male to stumble over his stool. You've spent your entire life hiding behind your desk and quill or underneath this bitch's skirt. If you ever speak to me this way again, I'll demand satisfaction in the ring. It's twice now, Drawn, that you've invoked another tribe's wolf's wrath. For a diplomat, your people skills are somewhat lacking. I guess like everything, that too went away with age. An awkward silence falls on the gathered, but Vithar quickly breaks it up with another quip. Perhaps he just practices this new brand of diplomacy Vortigern meddles with. He draws a reluctant chuckle from some of the wolves while Aldris looks to her defeated friend with worry. What of Delron? Where is he now? We couldn't look for him, as there were too many wounded among us, and we had to bring them back home. So you just left him out there, alone? Drawn calls out in shock, but Regara only shrugs. Rannoch couldn't leave us without an escort, in case more wolves were hiding within our woods. Besides, in the last report I had from the druid, Delron's pack was headed to another burrow to leave the refugees there. He's our most experienced alpha. I'm sure that once his business is concluded, he'll return to us as hastily as possible. He'd better do. The fat male grumbles as if it were a threat. Trusting a word of an other kin. Aldris sneers, joining his discontent and causing an outburst of chatter among the tables. The chief stands up and repeatedly clangs his cup like a gavel to simmer everyone down. Well, there you have it. I think it's clear we have to invoke a howl. Some of the wolves nod in agreement, but Aldris quickly puts an end to it with another shouting spree. A howl? This is absurd. Weren't you threatening me with one just the other day? He scoffs at her mockingly. If you send the word out to all our wolves, it is bound to be picked up by the neighboring tribes. It will raise questions. Good. It'll also make others think twice before violating our borders. Vithar snickers, pouring himself some more wine. I warn you, Varrock, you are not interested in your counsel, I'm afraid, nor your warnings for that matter. He shrugs, regarding the gathered at our table. All I need is the support of the alphas and consent of one of the elders to summon the howl, and I will get there. I will not leave our people paralyzed with inaction by your intrigues. If you go against us, I promise you that your position... I don't give a damn about my position as well. He states plainly in a risen voice, rolling his eyes in annoyance and causing a majority of the gathered to gasp. Depose me for all it matters. Who will you replace me with? There's not a wolf anywhere in this forest, even if you'd turn every single damn stone that would stand a better chance at contesting me than Vithar. He points to his friend, who at first is slightly surprised to be pulled into this argument, but his humor quickly returns. And I'll gladly trade places with him. He does half of the ruling for me anyway. You could be my advisor for a change. The brown male proposes cheekily, and many chuckle at the remark. I would gladly accept it, my friend, just to see the look on their dumb muzzles. I'm sure it would make this little switcheroo worth their time. How dare you mock us like that? His Drawn growls in anger, but the chief only laughs. Mock? I'm just stating a fact here. Who do you plan to replace me with? Vithar has more popular support than any of your imaginary candidates could ever have. The two exchange surprised looks. It would seem they have found themselves at yet another impasse, and I must admit, I enjoy seeing their bewildered expressions as they sit there on those undersized stools. Oh my god, I forgot about that. As they sit there on those undersized stools like naughty children in a timeout. The chief, on the other hand, takes his adult-sized seat with satisfaction, clinking his cup with Vithar in a triumphant toast. I'd suggest we let the emotion settle down before we discuss the vote further. Perhaps you should go and eat something, or have a drink. I'm sure that shouting did a number on your throat. Amen to that. I mutter quietly under my breath, reaching for my cup to take a sip and causing Rannoch to chuckle. I watch as Aldris squeezes her fist in annoyance but otherwise doesn't move. Oh my god! That was close. That was close. We will remain where we are. Suit yourself. The chief shrugs and the table returns to idle chatter when I finally nibble on my food. My appetite kind of went away with Regara's story, but at the same time, I'm kind of hungry. I'm quite hungry. Despite how terrible it all have sounded, both she and Rannoch look quite comfortable. Quite normal, merrily joking with friends and enjoying their meals as if nothing happened. Perhaps it's because they were prepared for something like this their entire life, but something tells me they're just repressing their emotions in a most unhealthy of fashion. We stay like this for some time, with the elders watching as our revelry continues. There's an obvious celebratory mood, with Regara being almost like a guest of honor. From time to time, different wolves come by our table to clink their chalices towards the towering female and patted her approvingly on the back. No wonder, she became an instant celebrity with her story. But the congratulating isn't limited just to her. Many cheer Rannoch as a savior of his sister pack. I look with pride as my wolf receives all the praise he rightfully deserves, even though he feels rather awkward about it. It's nice to have the dinner shift to this lighter mood. Eventually, Cora shows up, rushing towards the table with a troubled expression. I'm sorry for being late. One of the young ones was teething and had trouble falling asleep. Hello, love. I've heard from V about the ordeal. Terribly sorry about all that. She scratches Rannoch's chin and then nods tiredly towards Regara. But you both are safe and sound. That's all that matters. I could hear a gasp escape Rannoch's throat as Cora lands merrily inside its lap, brushing her back against my shoulder. What is she doing here? Aldrich sneers, looking at the girl with the powerful disdain and clearly reliving our morning spat. I'm here to keep our returning hero some company and congratulate him on a job well done. The tawny female responds, nuzzling Rannoch's cheek softly, and I struggle not to get jealous again. And you will allow her at the table but not us? Technically, she's not sitting at the table. She's not even seated on the bench. The chief shrugs, sneaking satisfied glances at his boy. She is sitting on some wood, though, that's for sure. Oh my god. Oh my god. Vither pipes up, raising his cup and causing the gathered to burst into laughter. The only ones not sharing in the amusement at this classy joke are the elders and the couple in question. Fuck me, if they had to endure this on a regular basis, no wonder they decided to comply with the charade. I sit next to them quietly, trying not to be jealous. This time it's much easier, not only because I like Cora, but also because I know it's not something either of them wants to do, to begin with. Hang on, where's that thing that I have set up, No, it's not that. Here we go. Damn it, it's not that. And I just realized that the we need to shut the fuck up is still there. Let me remove that. There we go. Not to mention, every now and then, Cora leans back with her entire body stretching like a cat so that she could reach my head and scratch it. It's pleasant, but at the same time gives me a front view of her cleavage and puts her entire torso on display, like a smorgasbord for Rannoch to drool over. He might not want to, but I clearly see he's getting somewhat flustered, and how can I blame him? I'm also getting flushed. The way she bends her slender body does something to me on a fundamental level. How could this not entice other males? What is wrong with this tribe that a catch like this must parade herself with a flashy lure like Rannoch to draw attention? None of what those wolves do make any damn sense. I just close my eyes and lose myself in her occasional scratches. But as the time passes, Cora gets more and more frisky, with her paws going up and down Rannoch's torso. It almost looks as if she upped the game of getting me jealous, or maybe I'm just taking it too personally. But one thing is sure, they, or at least she, is going fully at it, as Rannoch gets extremely worked up to the point even the elders notice. Shouldn't they get a room? A rather shameless display. Puppy love, what can you do? Not like the two of you would know anything about it. Almost as if emboldened by her father, Cora giggles so theatrically that it sounds comical. Worse yet, Tana gives me one of those self-satisfied smirks, and again, I'm getting incredibly frustrated. I watch with surprise and growing anger as she takes hold of Rannoch's muzzle and dove towards his ear, whispering some sweet nothings, and then she nibbles on it, causing Rannoch to go utterly red with embarrassment. Is she fucking drunk? Alright, break it up, you two. The chief finally interrupts us, but he does so in a teasing manner, almost taking deep satisfaction from the spectacle. Rannoch only stands up, petrified, helping the female to get to her own feet. See you later, handsome. She blows him a kiss, and he slaps her buttocks mechanically, allowing her to skip away to her own table. Something's off, though. At first, I think she simply took the game too far, but Rannoch's expression shows he's more concerned than turned on, despite the clearly visible bulge in his crotch. Ugh. I need to take a leak. He mumbles awkwardly, looking to his father, who waves his paw at him to give leave. Sure you do. Vither teases, drawing an amused snort from the chief, who waves his paw at his son. Come. Rannoch nods begrudgingly and throws in my direction. This is getting a little too horny. Well, there's some. I get up, slightly confused, only to freeze still as the chief looks in my direction. Whatever you need him for. The wolf pauses, looking back at them absentmindedly. I pissed on my gambeson once. I need him to hold it back for me. The chief and Vither exchange confused looks, but then shrug and return to the matter at hand, while I follow the wolf behind one of the screens. Well, we're going to leave off here tonight. I don't know how horny it's going to get. I fucking love an L. I fucking love her. She is built different, and that is good. It was. So anyways, I have shit that I need to get done tonight, so I'm gonna see how much longer. So stay safe, have a good night, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.